Hi, welcome everyone to PopCultX episode 126. We are back. We've been gone for a little bit, or at least I have. I've been out of commission. So we are back together, both myself, Gabriel, and so we're back with all your pop culture trivia information, our feedback on what we're watching, things like that. So let's go ahead and get back into it. Danny, how have you been?
Oh, been holding down the fort here, I guess, while you've been gallivanting around and then, recovering from the gallivanting around. But I want to know how your trip was. We haven't talked in about a month, probably. So I know you made it to New York City and then you went on a cruise there. So tell us, how was it?
It was amazing. So pop culture wise, I was able to do a couple really cool things. So I saw Gutenberg, which is a new Broadway musical by now I'm gonna of course forget their names, but Andrew Reynolds and the guy who is the voice for Olaf in Frozen.
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad, yeah. So they famously were in the Book of Mormon together. And so they come together for this new musical called Gutenberg. Super, super funny. It's basically about these two guys that decide to make a musical. And as they're describing what the musical is going to be about, they go through the whole musical playing all the roles by themselves, just these two guys. And the way they distinguish their characters is they put on different trucker caps that have the name of the character. So it'll say like Bar Wench or Town Idiot or Gutenberg. So super, super funny. Like I had such a good time seeing that show. We also saw Sweeney Todd, which was really great. We saw Sweeney Todd with the singer that I can't think of his name now. Anyway, famous like jazz singer, like easy listening singer. He's playing Sweeney Todd. Let me look it up because the cast was amazing. And Sweeney Todd is probably one of my favorite musicals because it's a little bit has
darker,
darker vibe. And so I've always appreciated it. I did like the film by Tim Burton, but this rendition itself is really good. And so let me find it is Anna Lee Ashford is in it, and Gaishin Matarazzo from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
And the lead is let's see, Josh Groban.
So he's listening is right, yeah.
Yeah, very famous singer, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They did a really good job. It was really good. It was dark. It was the music is really great. So we saw that. That was really enjoyable. Got to see some really cool pop art. Talk about pop culture and how pop culture influences art. Saw some Andy Warhol, Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera at the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. Went to the Met, where they famously have the Met Ball or the Met Gala. Went there, went to the Guggenheim. So did a lot of really cool things. Saw a lot of really famous places, ate a lot of pizza, of course, and had a lot of fun. So
that's awesome.
I got a cold at the end of it, so I lost my voice, is why I was a little MIA on the podcast. But I'm back and not necessarily at 100%, but pretty good. So I'm back here on the podcast.
Really cool. When you said Gutenberg, my first thought, maybe this just says my age, is I thought it was a musical about Steve Gutenberg.
That's exactly what I thought.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. Okay.
In Police Academy. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be really interesting. Like, I had no idea, but it's actually Gutenberg is the person who invented, I think, the WordPress. And so it sounds like it's like, what the hell, but it's actually really funny why they chose him. It's sort of like a fictional historical musical, or and it's really funny. They're really talented, laugh out loud, just really good. So So yeah, that was my adventure in New York or on the East Coast.
Very cool. That's really fun. That's really fun. Well, I held it down here. I got to talk to a couple, an editor and a director, and really talking about like Hispanic Heritage Month because that's what we're in right now. So it was really cool. It was really fun. But yeah, what else have you been watching recently since you got back and have been recovering?
Well, because it's October and we're officially in like spooky season, I sat down and watched this film called Sick. And it's a really interesting sort of horror movie, a take on it. It starts with two friends who are dealing with the COVID pandemic. So this is like a really recent film. They want to quarantine because it's at the beginning of the pandemic. So they go off to this wooden cabin, secluded, away from the big city. Just these two girls on their own, trying to quarantine, and then of course horrific things start to happen, and it goes from there. But COVID plays a big role in it. I think that one of the lines is like, if you're gonna scream, can you at least put a mask on? So it's really funny. And it kind of makes it's kind of poking fun at the extreme, fear that we had of like, you have to have a mask on, you have to be 6 feet away from me, like we need to follow all these rules that Fauci is telling us, and kind of slightly making fun of the reality of like having to live in that, but at the same time, like the actual horror of like what happens if you're in a pandemic and these horrific things happen to you.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun and really interesting. It's kind of a Friday the 13th kind of a Scream vibe. I think Kevin Williams might have actually been involved in writing, one of the creators of the Scream franchise. Okay. I don't know if he's a producer or if he was a writer. I forgot to check, but I know that he was involved in it. And so it's a really good movie. I recommend it. It's a newer movie. Normally for October, I like to go back and watch like old horror movies to kind of get me in the mood for Halloween. But this one kind of caught my eye, and we sat down and watched it, and it was really enjoyable.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw that. I need to go back and watch it then. I did start watching a couple of horror comedy. I guess I watched The Lost Boys and Army of Darkness. So, I hadn't seen Lost Boys probably since it first came out when I was really young. So watching it again, it was, a little bit more cheesy than I remember, but it was still a fun movie.
I love Lost Boys. Lost Boys is probably one of my favorite. I don't know if you would call it a horror movie. I definitely if not one of my favorite vampire movies of that genre of horror. I just thought that at the time when I was a kid that the vampires were so cool. They were just like the epitome of like teen coolness. Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patrick and all the rest of the cast. I actually went to a Halloween convention a couple months ago in Long Beach.
Oh,
and
nice.
Jason Patrick and some of the cast of Lost Boys were there signing Lost Boys
cool.
Stuff, posters, and video cassettes and stuff. So definitely was one of my favorite. Also, what was it? Corey Haim was in that movie.
Both Corys, yeah.
Yeah, Corey Feldman as well. Yeah, both Corys. And one of the best. The music is nearly perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Jamie Gertz is in it, who was like another one of like the cool 80s teen stars. And then all of the cool vampires. And even the mom was really cool. I love the mom. I forget her name. I think it's Diane Weiss.
Weiss. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
She's in like Parenthood and a lot of other movies in the 80s. I really loved her. She's kind of a quirky, eccentric mom. Grandpa is hilarious.
So
that one will probably definitely be on my watch list for this October for sure.
Very cool. I know there's a few other movies that are coming out, new movies that I want to see that are horror related. One of them I think drops out this Friday or October 6th, called Totally Killer. I'm not sure if you've seen the trailer for that one or not. Looks like a fun Back to the Future meets Scream meets Jason type movie. It looks really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another movie that's coming out that I will not be watching that was heavily promoted while I was in New York. They had the big I don't want to say banner, but like the big billboards in Times Square. And it's the sequel to The Exorcist. I will not be watching it. That is
Just
where Dave
because.
draws the line and does not watch it. As I think I've mentioned before, the scariest movie I've ever seen is the original Exorcist. It's like still terrifies me to today. I know a lot of people think it's cheesy, but it's one of those things that when I first saw it, it terrified me. It still terrifies me today. The sequel looks just as scary, and I will not be watching it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a movie I want to watch that can't believe I've never seen, and it's a horror movie. It's a Hellraiser.
Oh,
so yeah. I know they remade it a couple years ago with a female lead, Pinhead, I think. So I want to watch the original and then the remake. So that's going to be on my watch list this spooky season.
Yeah, Clive Barker is actually the way I got introduced to Pinhead, the character is I think it was in an anthology horror series where they introduced Pinhead, Clive Barker. And so that's something else that I love to do during October is read horror to kind of get into the mood for Halloween. I have a book that I just purchased on Amazon right now that I think we're lucky enough to be able to mention that we will be having a guest come on here. So it's my way of segueing into that.
Well done. Yeah. Well done.
So I will be once I get that purchased in the mail, I'll be reading that for October. But I love a good horror anthology where it breaks up all these small stories to kind of get you in the mood for Halloween. One of my favorite anthology, I don't know if it's an anthology or just a mixture of short stories, was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That was my favorite book when I was a kid.
Me too.
Not because of the actual words and the stories, but because of the illustrations were classic.
Yeah.
So scary and so weird and oddball. So yeah, I definitely will get me in the mood by reading some horror fiction.
Yeah, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was one of my favorites as well. And like you said, because of the illustrations, they were just so odd. They were just, so out there. And they when they made the film of it recently, a couple of years ago, I think, I thought they did a really good job of taking that oddness from the books and translating it to live action.
Yeah, the monsters they did were really did an amazing job of keeping that same aesthetic from the illustrations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned it. So let's go ahead and let's talk to, will be joining us, or we will be joined by Faye Knightly, who is the founder of the Sisterhood of the Black Pen, who is the producer of the book that you just ordered, which is Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror. So let's just go ahead and get into that and let's learn about Faye. Hello, everyone. Welcome to PopCultX Little Talks. It's our conversation series where we chat with a wide variety of creative-minded people. Today, we are joined by author and editor Faye Knightly, whose latest book or anthology, Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror, is available now, I think, on Amazon and other places. That's where I saw it at. So first off, Faye, thanks for joining us here on PopCultX.
Thank you, Danny. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so I know one of our former guests introduced us or sent you our way. But other than that, tell us, I don't really know much about you, Faye. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how, your origin story, so to speak, how you started dabbling in writing, editing, and is horror really your favorite genre?
Creative pursuits, it's so interesting to try out different genres. Actually, that's kind of like the power of being able to be a writer and create different kinds of worlds where some are scary and some might not be. I myself am more into dark fantasy, but horror elements, absolutely. There's some scary stuff in all of my work, very gritty and dark. And I do dabble in horror as well. And then I am a co-founder and a leader at the Sisterhood of the Black Pen, which is the group that has produced this anthology, Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror. And also we have Gloria, who is your previous guest, as one of our 11 authors on this anthology. So yeah. I do write some horror. It's really fun writing horror. I myself am a scaredy cat, so it's kind of like I can write horror, but it's hard to live in that world for a long time because I will frighten myself. So I just write horror shorts and then I'm in the scary world with the scary villain, but not for an extended novel length chunk of time.
So you're not up in an attic space, with just a candlelight there on an old rickety typewriter doing your horror stories.
Would not do well at that as a full novel production. But I mean, I love the shorts that I've done with the anthology group. They've been a lot of fun. And it's kind of cool to do horror around Halloween because that's just so fitting. It's the time of year I watch scary movies and read horror myself. So it's a good time to get into it.
I was just going to mention that right now is the perfect time for our audience to pick up your anthology because it is Halloween season, it's scary, spooky season, whatever you want to call it. So this is a time that people, especially me, I love to read scary books and kind of scare myself at night while I'm reading, and then maybe watch a horror movie as well, just to get into the whole spirit of the season. Would you say that this is an anthology meant for adults, or can young adults read this as well?
Oh, no. We're 18 plus. No younger listeners. I did a book event and this little girl came up to my table and she's like 12 or 13. And like I said, I write dark fantasy, which is scary and spicy. And that's the same case. That's the case as well with our anthology. So she comes up and she's like, "Do you have any books for me?" And I'm like, "No, honey, keep walking. Shield your little eyes. Don't do it." So no. I'm not under 18, please. We've got a lot of spice. We got a lot of gore. I mean, it's 4 stories have spice in them. I mean, all of them have gore in them. So it is like a wild ride. There are 11 stories, lots of variety. I don't know that we have a single one that I would describe as under 18. So.
Well, it wouldn't be Twisted Tales if it was, right? So
that is very true. Yeah. We've got Bloody Mary. We've got Stingy Jack from The Legend of the Jack-O-Lantern, the Boogeyman. Like, there's a lot going on in there. Not for young guys.
That's very cool. Now, you said you were part of the co-founder, and I guess the book was also produced by Sisterhood of the Black Pen. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that come to be?
Well, it was a really cool and sort of interesting organic process where I'm part of a writing group, and it's actually a mom writing group, interestingly enough. We are an offshoot of a larger group where we wanted just a smaller community of moms who write. And so we're called Write Like a Mother. So like Write Like a Mother. And it occurred to us, like, we had editors and formatters and cover designers and just this great pool of talent in our group. And we're only about 50 people in our size. So we're pretty small. But we had all this raw talent and all these people in different areas of publishing to draw on. And we've decided we wanted to do something collaborative as a group. So that was our first anthology, and it was very collaborative. Everybody had a say. There was a lot of like responsibility being diffused around. It was a little bit of a hot mess in that sense because we hadn't really found our footing. But it was a Christmas anthology horror.
Oh, okay.
So very twisted tales that way. And I was the leader on that project. So even though it was this collaborative thing, but everybody paid into it. And it was this great effort from all of us to kind of get together and do something cool. And that would have been where it ended. And I basically, I have my own work. And it was a big project for me as the sole leader of the first anthology. But I was approached by one of our authors on the first anthology. And she said, do you want to partner on another one? And I'd always wanted to revisit it, but had been busy with my own work, and it was such a big endeavor the first time as a leader. So I wasn't really planning to, but I was feeling like I wished I could. And then this person approached me, and we've done really well together as a pairing. I guess you guys are kind of partnering on this podcast, so maybe you feel me, but we've just been a really good complement to each other in terms of our strengths. Like, she's a lot more on the social media side than I am, whereas I have all the Excel sheets and I know what's going on, and I know, like, this is our next step and here's our timelines. So we decided to really go for this anthology thing. We've produced it, we funded it. So her and I, that's Faye Knightly, my partner, and I. So we fully produced this one. We gave a payout to our authors. We ran a really big submission process. So we went outside of our writing group.
Oh, okay.
Submission process. Yes, the first one was really within the group. Whereas this one, we just opened it up to all indie horror authors, because what we really want to do is to get that wide selection of people so that we can pick like the best stories out of the batch, right? And then we worked with those authors, and a lot of them had either published, one book maybe, or a short story before, but hadn't done a lot of publishing, whereas Faye and I have experience with publishing. So it was a really cool to be able to guide them through the publishing journey and sort of teach them the ropes in terms of how to self-publish their own works in the future.
Very
which
cool.
Really what we're kind of working on with these anthologies. Like, we want to take those indie authors who haven't really gotten out there. There are a lot of confidence issues and just not knowing where to start for people. And it's a very vulnerable thing to put your work out there too. So there's all these like barriers to young indie writers. I shouldn't say young, I should say new. not young, but new indie authors to putting their work out there and finding out how you even go about, there's developmental editing and then copy line editing and formatting, and then there's the whole marketing thing, and you have to have a cover, and it's complicated if you have no idea. And there are resources, but then you have to seek out all the resources for all these different little things to figure out. Whereas we, took their stories, we worked with them on their stories. So we did that developmental editing phase. And that was like 3 to 4 weeks of like, let's refine this and polish it and get it ready for publication. And then we handheld everyone through the whole process. So the goal is, at the end of this, we've had this fantastic team of authors. The book has been getting just rave reviews, and we're really hoping that this is going to help them on their publishing journey as well.
That's cool. It's
pretty cool. Like, we have big plans for the group, and we're doing sort of more like a general branch. So not just in the horror genre, but also focused on producing anthologies with lesser known indie authors, who we've selected from a big submission process. So,
do you find the curation process to be a fun endeavor? I mean, going through all the submissions, reading them all, so you're seeing all these new stories. Is that something that you enjoy, or is it just more like, oh, let's just pick them?
Oh no, it's really fun. It's really fun. There were some of the stories where I was just like, whoa, this is really cool. And it's exciting to put out those, like, we have accepted you. Do you accept us? Feelers to see if we were going to get the story or not, right? There was this one that just drove me nuts. It was a woman who was like similar in age and position to me, and she sent her husband and her kids out trick-or-treating, and she stayed home to shell out candy. And so she's shelling out candy and she's having a great time. She's drinking some wine. And all of a sudden, this like adult man wearing a scary mask comes to the door.
Oh.
And she's okay, like, here's some candy. And these guys keep coming with these freaky masks. And she's like, what the heck is going on? and I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say she runs out of candy, and it's like, it was a really scary one. That was my favorite, my personal favorite.
That's
and
cool.
We put it at the end of the anthology because I'm like, this is, trick or treating, candy. It was a very like realistic scenario that like, you could be in that position easily, very relatable. So that was my favorite. So yeah, submissions. And then we were waiting like, are they going to say yes to our offer? Did we make a good enough case for them to trust us with their story? Have they submitted it elsewhere?
That's true, huh?
As much as people like put their work out there and enter it as submissions and are worried about whether it'll be accepted, from our end, we're like, this is amazing. I hope they accept us, because
I didn't think about that. I mean, if an author sends it out to multiple locations and then they get multiple offers back, so then on your side, you have to hope that they choose your offer.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. You want the best work, right? So
yeah.
Exactly. But there's so much talent out there that just isn't showcased, because people just, don't really know what to do, how to do it, don't feel they're good. And so that's kind of where we're trying to come in and support the really talented voices and try and get them heard. And as a result, we're producing really cool anthologies, which is really fun to do. It's been a wild ride. We had tons and tons of early readers on the project, and we planned it that way. We wanted to get that hype going, get people reading the book, and they've just been bonkers for this book. Like it's been so cool to see. Like we've been getting all these really great reviews, people just like loving it, and them being like, "We're gonna promote the book, cool. We liked it so much." And it's like, what? It's like a very exciting thing to be a part of. And I know our authors are feeling that too. And that's where that like confidence factor kind of comes in as well.
Yeah. I feel like there's a real renaissance right now when it comes to horror and, horror writing, horror movies, Halloween. I just recently went to a horror convention in Long Beach, and I was wondering, do you guys do conventions when it comes to promotion of the book to try to get word out of your new anthology?
Haven't been to one myself. I did a bookish event, and so I was promoting the book there. It was just like a book fest, so it wasn't really a convention. So it wasn't really like horror oriented, but that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Now I want to do that.
Yeah, it's a very unique fan base that loves horror, and it's a lot of fun. At first I was a little intimidated because I didn't know what to expect, but it was a lot of fun, and I don't know, maybe that's something that you guys can look into in the future, because I know I was able to meet a lot of really cool artists and a lot of cool people by going to and attending the convention.
Oh, that sounds pretty great. Yeah. I was looking to see what's going on around here. I have a box of books that I got these books as author copies, and I'm like, I'm going to find somewhere to give these away or promote or something with them. So
yeah, for idea. Sure. That's really cool. I mean,
box of book babies.
Well, we are a pop culture podcast, as you know. So I like to ask all of our guests what sort of what they're currently watching, or maybe even what inspires your writing. Is there anything in pop culture that you draw from in your dark fantasy or in your horror short stories that you spend a few minutes with? Writing, watching, reading, anything like that?
Yeah, so my character, I did Stingy Jack, which is the legend of the jack-o'-lantern. And have you guys seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it's going to be my favorite show forever. It really will. But there's these creepy ass villains, and they're called the Gentlemen, and they dress up with like suits and a hat, and they have this like skeletal look to their faces and this smile that's just like can't even describe it. I mean, I could pull up a picture somewhere, but I mean, I can't really show it to you. I'll send you a picture later. But yeah, that imagery, it just like, it was a scary episode and it just like haunted me, apparently, because that's exactly what I based my character on for his description. Like, he is skeletal. He's had this long life that was extended by keeping the devil trapped in a coin, and the devil's at his mercy, so he makes the devil give him a naturally long life, and he is therefore very stretched thin, and his face is just like a skeleton, and he has, you know, a suit, and he has a creepy smile. So yeah, so that absolutely inspired my character.
Cool. Is there anything
your writing process? I have this real romanticized version of writers that, you know, they sit at a typewriter or at a laptop, and, you know, they're somewhere in Vermont and like by a lake. Do you have a process that you do that you like to have your setup, or do you write wherever? Do you write on a legal pad? What's your process when it comes to writing?
Well, I have to have a keyboard. Some people actually write on their phones. Mm-hmm. I can't do that. I need to be at some kind of screen with a keyboard. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I text all the time. Like, I'm on my phone all the time. But when it comes to writing, it's like my brain just like doesn't connect to these movements. I need to be on a keyboard. In terms of where, I don't know. You know what? I kind of move around. I move around a lot. I have kids, so I'm always operating around tiny humans. Love being outside sometimes, you know. I don't know. Lots of different locations, but always a keyboard. There's always a keyboard.
So you take your whole desktop computer to Starbucks as long as you have your keyboard.
Oh no, I'm meaning my laptop.
I know.
Like,
I'm just
like anything where I got my home row. I'm on there, you know. Got my QWERTY going.
There you go.
That's what I need. I need the QWERTY. So yes.
That's really
keyboard.
Cool.
Absolutely. And sometimes I have little chocolates as a treat, like you would give a dog. So when you finish something, you're like, oh, and that was rewarding. And like, oh, I feel happy that I finished it and I got a treat. So I'm going to do my next page. Yeah.
That's interesting. Rewarding yourself for finishing a page. I like that. Why not?
Well, I mean, you know, I'm just really just snacking on chocolates. But it's better if there's a reason.
That's cool. If people want to follow you on your journey or for Sisterhood of the Black Pen, where can they find you on social medias?
Yeah, mostly we're on TikTok and Instagram. So TikTok is Sisterhood of the Black Pen, because the Sisterhood of the Black Pen did not fit in their character limit. So just Sisterhood of the Black Pen. And Instagram, it's the Sisterhood of the Black Pen, just to add some confusion in.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure if you just looked up Sisterhood of the Black Pen, you could find us. And then I'm Faye Knightly on mostly on TikTok. You know what? I just like TikTok. It's so much easier to just like do little videos than it is to, I don't know, Instagram carousels and be in Canva all the time. I'm just always moving. So I like sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to make a graphic is not really my favorite. But when it comes to random little videos, yeah, got that. So I'd say we're much more active on TikTok. And we want to keep connecting with indie authors. And right now we're focused on horror. And that's kind of been our starting point with the holiday horror Christmas one. We're going to be planning a second volume of that now that we've got our process really well down. And we're producing these anthologies, and we've really opened up to others. So we're still using like our in-house formatters and things within the group, but we are taking writing from outside the group now. It's kind of the difference on that. And it's all led by Laura and I. So we're going to be taking submissions for our second Christmas anthology. Oh, cool. So it's going to be Christmas Horror, Volume 2.
Interesting.
And it's fun to do twists on holidays. And that's kind of our thing right now. So, you know, in the future, we might be doing Valentine's Day.
Bloody Easter.
A bloody Easter. Exactly. And so take this nice holiday thing that, everyone can kind of connect to and then twist it up. Twist it, make it crazy, make it horror. And that is really quite fun to do, quite frankly. So we have that. And then we're also going to be doing like a monster smut anthology as more of a general anthology. And that'll be our first different other than horror thing that we're going to be doing. And that will be for next March. So that one's a little bit ways off. But there's this Monster March Madness thing that we're trying to do. Okay. And we just thought it'd be a really fun project to do. Nice. We're always sort of interested in trying out new things. So
very cool. If you could give a piece of advice to any new author that might want to submit their work or hasn't really had that process yet, I know there you probably could speak to a piece of advice for a while, but what would you say to a new author that's kind of worried about or really just doesn't know what to do or how to go about getting their work out?
Right. Well, one thing I really like about what we're doing with anthologies is that when you're just starting out writing, it's easier to work with a smaller piece of writing and edit that to perfection than it is to start writing your first piece as a long novel. So you have 100,000 words and you've got this complex plot and all these characters that are slowly developing versus you're starting out with something that's 5,000 words. And so you could write that. Then you can rewrite it and you can rewrite it and you can edit it. And it's helpful to have a smaller project to start with. And even, just even starting smaller than that, starting with prompts. But yeah, absolutely short stories. My first publication was a novella. So it was like a short book kind of thing. And I just absolutely found that, and participating in anthologies with short stories, they are just a way to kind of ease you into that whole take this piece, edit it again, edit it again. Keep editing. I'm a perfectionist. Oh my God, I gotta edit it again. But then working with people too, working with an editor and figuring out, how you want your story to go is again easier when it's a shorter story. Yeah. So it's a good place to start. And if you don't submit it, you're never going to know if you could be involved in one of these anthologies. And like we have a number of people in this anthology that are brand new, no previously published work. One of the women was just so excited holding the book for the first time, like to be in the book. So it could you might have a story that's worth telling, that's fascinating, that we would be happy to produce with you. Because we want those amazing stories. It's really very sad when people just don't try it out to see if they can fit into an anthology, to see if their work could strike a chord with people. And we see that a lot in our smaller writing group, right? Like a Mother, where there are a lot of authors who are just very discouraged of trying, because it's a tough process to write a book or write a short story and then sit there and edit it again. It's like demoralizing. You're doing all this, you're not really sharing it with anyone. There's no instant reward from that. So it takes a lot of advocating for your story and for yourself to just even get to where you're sharing it with others. So kind of tough gig that way.
Well,
share.
Yeah, share it.
But yes, share. And if any indie horror authors or indie authors are listening, we do prompts and stuff on our TikToks and Instagram.
Oh, cool.
We feature authors. We do audience participation, which is fun. Like we ask if anybody wants to name like an everyday household object, and we'll write a little story about
improv.
Yeah, improv writing
there
stuff.
You go. I like it.
So, that's a way to get involved. And we really do want to get involved with the indie author community and branch away from being this little restrictive thing that we were when we started. So
very cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that you are helping to the new indie authors break them of that mindset where maybe they think they can't do it, or like you said, they don't know how to do it. So you're giving them the tools to achieve that. And all it is really is just that first step. And once they get that first step, the next one comes. And so appreciate that you guys are helping out indie authors do that. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, the work is fantastic. Like the stories we included because we did this big submission process and we want to keep doing that. We're really picking these talented people out and giving them a place where they can learn the publishing ropes. And I hope that they go on to do more things. And we intend to follow those authors and support them in whatever way we can as a organization. So.
Well, very cool. Well, Faye, it was really great getting to meet you and see the work that you're doing with Sisterhood of the Black Pen. We appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and chat about Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror. See, now that would be cool for an audiobook. If you want me to do some creative voices for it, let me know.
Sure. Yes.
Go ahead, read them. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here tonight.
So thank you once again, Faye, for joining our podcast. I'm definitely excited to get my hands on the new anthology that you helped produce and you wrote a short story in. I can't wait to get scared. It's spooky season and I want to be scared. So once I get my hands on it, I definitely will be sharing it with our listeners, sharing what my favorite short story is, and definitely encourage any of our listeners to go pick it up. Meet us, or are we still on Twitter? Is it even called Twitter?
It's Twitter, X, whatever. We're not active on there. The account is still alive, but it's not active. So Instagram.
So message us on Instagram or message us on YouTube, wherever else we're at, and let us know if you read the anthology, what your favorite story is. If you're an independent writer and if you have an idea for a short story, definitely let us know and you can come on the podcast and talk about it. But yeah, it's definitely that time of the year for us to be doing scary things. So if you have anything that falls under that genre of scary, let us know. We'd love to have you on the podcast.
Absolutely. Before we go, Gabe, just real quick, what's one scary movie that maybe I haven't seen that I should watch? Because you've seen a lot more than I have.
Yeah. Have you seen Neon Demon yet?
Yes. That was a trippy movie. Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah, I think I recommended it to you, but I forgot if you watched it or not.
I did.
That's a new-ish horror movie that I think that everyone should watch, just from a visual perspective. It's a really beautiful movie, but then it's also really gory and really grotesque at the same time. So it's a nice blend. I don't know. One of my favorite films to watch, I don't know if you've seen it, is Return of the Living Dead. That's one of my all-time favorite films. Punk rock zombies win in my book. So anything that has punk rock zombies in it is cool.
I will watch Return of the Living Dead.
No,
I think I have seen bits and pieces. This is the thing with me. I've seen bits and pieces of a lot of different movies, especially in the horror genre. I just never got around to watching the whole film. Like I said recently with Aliens, I finally saw that for the first time, or Friday the 13th last year, or Halloween. I never, seen bits and pieces, but never sat down to watch the whole film. So I will make it a point, Return of the Living Dead, to watch it by next episode. Out there, everyone, join me. Let's watch Return of the Living Dead together, and we can have a talk session about it, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about it. It's one of my all-time favorite horror films. It's sort of like in the vein of like a horror comedy, because there's definitely parts of it that are really funny. But the zombies are really perfect in that movie. It's really good. And it is scary too, because if you're like me and you have a fear of zombies, it's still scary. And so I definitely recommend everyone go watch it. And as a matter of fact, I'll join you and I'll be watching it this week as well.
There we go. 2 movies I saw real quick before we go that I wanted to just throw in there before I forget. I watched a movie called Sid is Dead. It's a high school coming of age story, which is really fun. I think it was on Hulu or maybe Prime somewhere. Sid is Dead, really good. And I watched a movie called Sing Street, which I think you've mentioned before. It's John Carney directed, written by, and it takes place in 1980s Dublin. It's about a kid who forms a band to get a girl, basically. So he creates these cool songs. It's a really not heartwarming, but it's really it's the kind of stories that I like about musical creation. So it's really fun. I recommend those two movies. And that's it.
Definitely will check them out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, for joining us again. Faye, thank you for stopping by the show. We appreciate that. And we will talk to you guys all next week.
Stay safe, everyone.